There is a quote I really like from an entrepreneur called Alex Hormozy, and he said something like, "The way to build confidence is to have an undeniable set of proof that you are who you say you are." I probably butchered it, but it was something along those lines. Now, I don't completely agree with this. I believe that your confidence in a certain skill of yours, for that is completely applicable, yes, but for the core confidence, for your confidence in people, in the world in general, we can't apply it. But if we were to adapt it, we will get something interesting. So the confidence, the way to build your confidence in the world and in other people and ultimately in yourself is to have an undeniable set of proof that the world does accept you for who you really are, for your core authentic self. But if we were to negate it, we understand that the way to not have confidence in the world, to not trust the world, to not trust yourself in engagements with the world, is to have an undeniable set of proof that the world does not accept you for who you really are. That you have to be inauthentic. Your authentic self is completely unacceptable. You have to always put up this persona, and this is literally most people. Unless you went through a really big amount of work and, diving deep within your subconscious, doing the inner work, letting go of all those false beliefs, you are inauthentic as well. It's really tough to realize that you are inauthentic because this is just how you are. This is how you've been for a long time, and you believe this is authenticity because you don't know the world otherwise. You don't know yourself in a different frame. What leads to this inauthentic frame that most people lay into is creating this undeniable stack of proof that the world does not accept them, this negative feedback tank, let's call it that. And this negative feedback tank is always fueled with proof from the world. But out there in the world, in every single interaction, there is both proof that the world accepts you and doesn't accept you. But when you are already used to living like this, you only give attention to the negative feedback. You focus only on the negative. And it's much easier for us humans to focus on the negative aspects, to spot what's bad rather than what's good. And so that tank gets fueled and fueled and fueled. And it only reinforces your view on the world and your perspective. When you go through life and you encounter a normal conversation with a person, a conversation that's going really well, but there is that tiny that sequence of behaviors that reminds you of something, that triggers a memory from the past, a trauma from the past, a trauma that occurred right after you encountered that sequence of behaviors. And all of a sudden the lizard brain takes over, you're out of control, and your vision, your focus is narrowed down on that 1% of the conversation that might have just been threatening, that might just mean that you are not accepted. And in that scenario, you can't really do anything because you're out of control. The lizard brain is in charge. And automatically that 1% is taken and added to that tank of negative feedback. And like that, the perception of the world, the detrimental perception, is reinforced. What we have to do is create another tank of positive feedback, because that's how we convince ourselves that the world is not that bad, that we are accepted for who we really are. But how do we do that? Well, we need new feedback, exposure. Like, if you want to go through this, you need to expose your authentic self or more authentic parts of you to the world. Now, that is extremely scary and that requires a lot of courage, but it's completely worth it. This process will trigger you. If you expose your authentic self, people will react differently and you will feel triggered and threatened. In the moment, there are things you could do in the moment to ease this, but I'm not going to cover them in this video, maybe in a next video. But what I recommend is afterwards, take some time and reassess the situation, go back and analyze a bit what happened, and then draw new conclusions consciously, spot the positives from that interaction, Spot the positive feedback about your authentic version of yourself. Take them manually and add them into the new tank. How do you do that? Just remember them, keep them in mind, be proud about them. And after doing this for long enough, the new tank will override the old tank. And this will become an automatic procedure. You will start becoming more authentic, and you will start taking the positive feedback and almost like ignoring the negative feedback, maybe just taking it as pure information, not as something traumatic. Currently, your perception of the world is detrimental. The negative feedback tank keeps being fueled. And this is your subjective reality. Every one of us has a subjective perception of the world. Like, there is one objective truth about the world, the universe, all that stuff, but no one has access to it. Imagine it like an intersection of circles. This is the objective truth. This is my perception. It intersects a bit, and this is your perception, and there are 8 billion perceptions, but no one has access to that objective truth. Now, if that's the case, why would you keep fueling the tank in order to reinforce a detrimental perception of the world? If your perception is going to be subjective anyway, let's create a positive subjective experience.